The biggest myth that men have about female satisfaction after 50, and what our misconceptions are having sex after 50. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I'm so excited to welcome Dr. James Simon, board certified OBGY and professor at George Washington University and the founder of IntimMedicine Specialists. Dr. Simon, thanks for being here again.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Simon, of course, is a women's sexual health expert. So the topic today, busting the biggest myths about the misconceptions that men have about female satisfaction after 50, and then the biggest myth about what our misconceptions are about, well, having sex after 50. So a lot of women and men think this, and thus we're calling these the myths. So first one here, if she doesn't want sex, she's not attracted to me anymore. That's what men think. What do you say to that?
So I think that that's a very common misconception. I don't know if it qualifies as a myth, but misconception. So sexual desire is triggered by a lot of different issues. One would be hormones, and we've talked about that in the past. One would be situation. Is there an opportunity for uninterrupted intimacy? Or do you have kids and grandkids coming in every 5 minutes? These can all be impediments to intimacy, completely unrelated to how she or he feels about the other. There needs to be a proper setting, proper hormones, proper physical health.
Well, and the bottom line, don't equate sex with attraction. There's a million other things that could be going on. Here's another one that men's misconceptions are: all she needs is more foreplay. That's all she needs.
There's a kernel of truth there. Mm-hmm. As men age and as women age, we need more foreplay. Mm-hmm. Everything takes longer. But that's not the whole story. These other issues, which we've just mentioned, may be far more important to interest or desire than the need for more foreplay. Or it may be both. She or he do need more foreplay, but that's not the cause of their loss of interest. It may be aggravating their loss of interest because everybody needs pleasure in their interest as a reward, and they may not get the reward, aggravating the loss of desire from the get-go.
Well, especially if you're dealing with painful sex and, a lot of the whole idea of bringing lubricants into the bedroom finally. I mean, there's so many things here to discuss, but it just needs more foreplay. Yeah, the foreplay has to actually feel good. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that.
Absolutely. And there's another thing that we should talk about. Physical problems may be aggravating or necessitating changes in what they do together. So what they used to do may not be possible. It may be that this long-standing couple that used to do everything according to that script, he does this, she does that, he does this, she does that, da 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 da. That script needs to be rewritten. Remember those days when you were first dating? There was not a lot of penis and vagina sex. It was kissing, it was petting, it was touching, it was all kinds of things that didn't involve intercourse, that may need to become the primary new activity, what we call outer course, not intercourse. Yeah. And those activities can be done with bad hips, with bad backs, with inability to achieve or have pleasurable penetration.
Mhm.
All of these things are possible, but seldom explored because they are new, and new means a challenge.
Mhm.
New means fear.
Yeah.
New means, oh my goodness, am I going to succeed? Am I going to fail? Got to get back to that first date or two and relearn.
Well, you actually touched on two other misconceptions that are on this list. That one that you just covered is that sex has to be the way it always was, that you just can't let it change. And you just explained that very well, that we have to reevaluate what sex actually is to us. Is it only intercourse? Which then goes into this other misconception that I love this one, that if she doesn't orgasm from intercourse, that something is wrong with her.
So, even in young women, orgasm from intercourse is in the minority of women. Unfortunately, in my opinion, women who are young, middle aged, or old feel compelled to fake it.
Yep.
That's not honest and it's really unnecessary. They do it for a variety of reasons, including to satisfy his ego, which I don't think is necessary. But the answer is women typically do not
Mhm.
have orgasms with penis and vagina intercourse
Right.
unless there's some additional clitoral stimulation during intercourse to help her achieve orgasm.
Mhm.
There are all kinds of little tips and tricks. We can have a whole episode on that. But the answer is because she doesn't have an orgasm with intercourse makes her normal. The men need to learn that, and the women need to feel like they're normal and not shameful because they can't have an orgasm with intercourse. For the lucky women that do, more power to you, but you're the minority. Probably something like 20 to 30%, whereas 70 or 80% of women do not have an orgasm with intercourse. And those numbers get bigger the older we get.
Yeah, that's what Joan Price said. I know you've seen her on the show. She's a sexual health expert. She's over 80 now. That it's actually less than 20%, especially as we age. But people don't, they don't talk to women after 50 about it. They're not even part of the survey. So it's very low. And for me, that was a huge revelation years ago when I discovered this, that I am absolutely normal. And yeah, it's a big misconception. Finally, here of what the misconceptions men have that struck me here is that women over 50 just can't enjoy sex like they used to.
So, women after 50 have some added hurdles to enjoying sex. They may not be lubricated, they may take a long time, orgasm may be difficult to achieve, certainly difficult to achieve during intercourse.
Mhm.
But those are not insurmountable barriers. Pain is treatable, lubrication can come in a squirt bottle, we call it lubricant, and more pleasure and more time can be built in,
Mhm.
or we can have toys or what I call tools to help with stimulation, both of men and of women, that can shorten and narrow the time to achieving orgasm, like tools we use for everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we have great videos on that. Well, we have some great videos with you about vaginal health and what men need to know about the vagina. I will link to all that because it is worth watching. I think one of them is now over 650,000 views. So, yes, people tuned in and they watched because there's just so much we don't know. Well, let's just briefly look at a couple of the misconceptions that women have, that we have about ourselves, about sex and satisfaction after 50. The first one here, again, I think that hits home for a lot of women is that If my desire is low, then there's something wrong with me.
So desire in both men and women tends to go down with age. In women, spontaneous desire, the I can't wait to get home to have sex, spontaneous desire goes down with age, but is often replaced with what we call responsive or sometimes reactive desire. They're not all that interested, but if they allow themselves to become engaged in kissing, foreplay, whatever, then their internal desire is sparked, is rekindled, is reactive to the situation or responsive to their partner, and then they're off to the races. So it's a difference between spontaneous desire and responsive desire, and they're not the same. And as women age, they tend to have more responsive desire and less spontaneous desire.
Yeah. And once we understand that, it's a whole different way to approach sex, too. I had a similar discussion with Joan Price on that. I'll link to that as well. But it made so much sense. Here's another one that we've talked about this a lot, but let's touch on it briefly. That pain with sex after menopause is normal. I just have to live with it. A lot of women believe that.
So, pain with sex is not something you have to live with. But it is very common in menopausal women. It's treatable, it's addressable, and once it's addressed, then you can have sex without pain, and that's a good thing. So it's true that many menopausal women have pain with sex. It's true that we can enjoy sex without pain, including without penetration, but they're not inextricably linked together, that pain and sex have to always go together.
And then the other misconception, a big misconception, is that sex drive disappears with menopause. It surprises me somewhat, but I guess, again, if you're with someone you really don't want to be with, it's different than if you are with someone you want to be with. I think it's more that than anything, isn't? What do you think, Dr. Simon?
Every situation and every couple is different. I have couples where she wants a magic potion or a magic bullet to get her interest restored when she doesn't even like the guy. Okay. And she has pain or she has some kind of physical problem, let's say hip pain. These are all issues that need to be handled on an individual basis in order to bring that couple closer together, assuming they want to get closer together. Because we have men who aren't interested either.
Right.
And remember, it may be as high as 50% of men or 30% of women across the ages are having sex outside of their intimate relationships. If he or she is getting satisfied sexually outside their relationship, it's not a surprise to me that they don't want to have sex with each other.
Yeah, lot more to all this than meets the eye, so to speak.
And you have to have an honest discussion with your practitioner to make sure that he or she is not trying to solve a problem that they don't know about. So if they don't really want to have sex, I can't give her a magic bullet to make her want to have sex. But if pain is the problem, or if his technique or his erections are the problem, we have treatments for those. We have education for those. And the technique may need to completely change as they get older, require more stimulation, require more time, or a completely different approach.
Yeah, we talked about in the other about the misconceptions for men, is that we have to rethink rethink what sex really means to us. I've gone over the highlights on these. What do you see in your practice? Would you add anything, something that wasn't on here?
I really think that open communication within a couple is critical. We need to use what I call I language in expressing what we individually need. I need you to do this, or I really would like to do this with you or to you. How does that sound? Because we need to reinvent sex because the old ways aren't working for a variety of different reasons, but we need to communicate those reasons. He can't read her mind and she can't read his. And so we need to have this honest communication one to another, and not in the bedroom. It should be in a neutral place. And usually, and this is a recommendation I don't know that you've heard before, when they're not looking at each other, they could be walking hand in hand, looking straight ahead. When we're looking straight at each other, it can be more threatening. We don't want to be threatening. We want to be non-threatening, use I language, because if you start a sentence with you, it means you're blaming. I'll give you an example. I'd like you to do this more softly. That's different in its tone and its meaning than if I say, you're doing this too hard. One is encouraging and inviting, the other is blaming, but the answer is most of it is doable and the barriers surmountable.
Well, lots to digest here, lots to think about. I as we talked, I'm thinking about the other videos that you and I have done. We definitely need to link to those because you give such incredible explanations, well, about vaginal anatomy that both men and women don't know. And I just want to reemphasize that it's just education. And then it's easier to talk about also everything that you just said, maybe better what to ask for and why. So, Dr. Simon, is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Just that, keep communication open and honest, and keep your mind open to your partner's questions, requests, etc. And that'll go a very long way to keeping you both healthy and sexually active.
Absolutely. And that sex will and can and does grow. You can grow old having sex. Believe me, I live in a senior community now, we do, and I can attest to that. We talk. So anyway, Dr. Simon, once again, thank you so much. I will link to all of your information and the videos that we referenced. And if you would like to get in contact with Dr. Simon directly, he does do telehealth visits, and I will have the link below to IntimMedicine Specialists. Dr. Simon, once again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to another conversation soon on Second Act TV.